Welcome to more punctuation. Let's begin with colons. Now this is what a colon looks like. It's these two dots right here. Now on a clock, we separate the hours and minutes with colons. 6:32, see here's the colon. 9:58, there's the colon. And in a business letter, after the salutation, we use a colon. Dear Mr. President, here's a colon. Dear Madam, colon. Dear Sirs, colon. In a personal letter, we would use a comma. To introduce a final question, an example, or a direct quotation, we would use a colon. Benjamin Franklin said, here's the colon, a stitch in time saves 9. If there is a list of things and there's a sentence introducing the list, then we use a colon. I'm bringing these things to the picnic. Here's the colon. Here's the list. Juice, fruit, sandwiches, a blanket, and paper plates. So, on a clock, a colon separates the hours and the minutes. In a business letter, after the salutation, you use a colon rather than a comma. To introduce a final question, an example, or a direct quotation, Benjamin Franklin said, colon, a stitch in time saves 9. If there is a list of things and there's a sentence introducing the list, then use a colon. So I'm bringing these things to the picnic, colon. And now let's take a look at something called semicolons. Take a look. This is a semicolon. It's a dot here with a comma. We use semicolons before however, therefore, moreover, when they separate two complete sentences. I like to eat a lot of food, semicolon. However, comma, I don't like to gain a lot of weight. So take a look. I like to eat a lot of food. Here's the semicolon, and after however, we put a comma. We also use semicolons to separate two phrases which could stand alone and are related to each other. My class studied hard. Here's the semicolon. They all passed their exams. This could have a period right here. There could be two sentences, but because they relate to each other and I want to keep them together, we're going to use the semicolon. My class studied hard, semicolon. They all passed their exams. We use a semicolon to thoroughly separate items in a list where commas are already used. In the school band, many students play musical instruments. And here's a colon right here. Paul, comma, flute, semicolon. Take a look at that. George, comma, harmonica, semicolon. So George and harmonica are together, but they're separated from Paul and the flute, which are kind of together. But even there's a little separation. Richard, comma, drums, semicolon. And John, comma, saxophone. So we use semicolons before, however, therefore, moreover, when they separate two complete sentences. But take a look, when you use the semicolon and you use the word however, there's a comma next. Semicolons separate two phrases which could stand alone and are related to each other. My class studied hard. Here's the semicolon. They all passed their exams. Semicolons thoroughly separate items in a list where commas are already used. In the school band, many students play musical instruments. Paul, flute. And so we have a comma here and the flute, and there's a semicolon. George, comma, harmonica, semicolon. Richard, comma, drums, semicolon. And John, comma, saxophone. Now let's look at something else. They're called quotations. And this is what quotations look like. Here they are. This is the beginning quote and this is the ending quote. And we put quotes or quotations around a person's exact words. I like this book. Quote, quote. Do you see? Said her husband. Now, if the quote is not a question or an exclamation, what you want to do is you want to place a comma right here before the end quote to separate the quote from the speaker. Usually, you put your end punctuation inside the quotes when it's part of a quote. Where are you going? Here's the question mark. It's inside the quotes, asked the young girl. That person cried, I am here. And take a look. There's an exclamation point. It's inside the quotation, inside the ending quotation. Now you do this unless the end punctuation has to do with the sentence as a whole. Also, you want to place colons or semicolons outside of a quote. Not inside, but outside. Now, don't put quotes around an indirect quotation. Here's a direct quote. Who has the correct answer? The teacher asked. You put quotations there, but an indirect quote would be, the teacher asked if anyone had the correct answer. Listen to that again. The teacher asked if anyone had the correct answer. It's not a direct quote. It's not her exact words. It's just an indirect quote, so there's no quotations. You want to use quotes around the titles of poems, short stories, chapters, songs, and articles. Did you hear her sing yesterday? Yesterday would be in quotes. I read the poem Me and 6 Foot Sam by Jeanette Adams. I did that in the How to Read Aloud video. Now, a single quote is used when you have a quote within a quote. That's just one. It's a single quote. Now listen to this sentence. The girl said, quote, I heard her say, single quote, I love you, end of single quote, to him, end of quotes. The girl said, quote, I heard her say, single quotes, I love you, to him, end of quotes. A single quote is for a quote within a quote. Now, for names of books, operas, symphonies, and ballets, you want to use italics. And if you don't have italics, then you can underline. So, put quotes around a person's exact words. I like this book, Quotations. If the quote is not a question or an exclamation, place a comma before the end quote to separate the quote from the speaker. Always remember to place your end punctuation inside the quotes. Don't put quotes around an indirect quotation. With a direct quote, you always use quotations, but if it's indirect, like the teacher asked if anyone had the correct answer, you wouldn't put your quotations. Use quotes around the titles of poems, short stories, chapters, songs, and articles. Now, a single quote is used when you have a quote within a quote. And remember, with the names of books, operas, symphonies, and ballets, use italics, and if you don't have italics, then underline. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you would, is go to the Learn Grammar Quickly book. Here it is. And if you would, please do part 1, that's pages 42 to 43. And also do part 2, that's pages 46 to 47. Remember to check your answers in the back of the chapter, and then I'll see you for part 2 of More Punctuation. Welcome back to part 2 of More Punctuation. We're going to start with apostrophes. Now, apostrophes are used in contractions, which are 2 words in a shortened form that are joined together by this thing called an apostrophe, which takes the place of the missing letters. So, take a look. Is not, isn't. The apostrophe takes the place of the O. Does not, doesn't. Would not, wouldn't. Must not, mustn't. Are not, aren't. Do not, don't. Did not, didn't. Will not, won't. Was not, wasn't. Were not, weren't. Has not, hasn't. Have not, haven't. Had not, hadn't. Should not, shouldn't. Cannot, can't. Who is, whose. It is, its. You are, your. There is, theirs. They are, their. These are contractions. Now, these are not contractions. These are pronouns. Take a look. Whose, its, your, theirs, their. Whose book is that? Its book, your book. It's theirs, their. When they're pronouns, they don't have apostrophes. Okay, let's take a look at another way that we use apostrophes. Here we have the bee's knees. Now what this means is, it means the knees of the bee. This apostrophe S stands for of the. Whenever you see an apostrophe S, it stands for of the. There are 2 nouns here. So this literally means the knees of the bees. Actually, the knees of the bee. the knees of one B. Apostrophe S is one B. And this is the B's knees. It's S apostrophe. It's the knees of more than one B. So this is the knees of one B, and this is the knees of more than one B. I always remember this apostrophe S is of the, or S apostrophe is of the. Now, if the singular word ends in S, okay, here's a singular word that ends in S, it's Tess. What you want to do is you want to add an apostrophe S to show possession. Tess's hat, that's the hat of Tess. And when a plural word ends in S, like scissors or Jones, you just want to add an apostrophe. The handle of the scissors handle. The Jones garage, we just put an apostrophe after Jones. You want to add an apostrophe S to a plural that doesn't end in S. For instance, the children's toys. This is a plural, it doesn't add an S. It doesn't end in S. So all we do is we put an apostrophe S. The toys of the children, the children's toys. The game of the men, the men's game. Apostrophe S. This is a plural that doesn't add an S. So what do? We add an apostrophe S. And for plurals, mind your P's and Q's. We have an apostrophe S and apostrophe S. So let's take a look at apostrophes again. Their apostrophes are used in contractions. When we're talking about two nouns together, for instance, the knees of the bee, the bee's knees. And if a singular word ends in S, you want to add an apostrophe to show possession, like Tess's hat, the hat of Tess. When a plural word ends in S, you just add an apostrophe. The handle of the scissors, the scissors handle. The garage of the Jones, here they are, the Jones garage. You want to add an apostrophe S to a plural that doesn't end in S. The children's toys. Children is plural, apostrophe S. The men's game. Men is plural, apostrophe S. And for plurals, mind your P's and Q's. Now let's take a look at something else. And this is called a hyphen, and that's what it looks like. A hyphen is a short dash. It divides a word at the end of the line. Remember, you want to divide a word between syllables. Now, it's best not to divide it at all, but if you have to divide it, you need to know where the syllables separate. They went on a trip for the holiday. Here, there's not enough room, so I separated it here, and I separated it between syllables. That's okay. But this one's not okay. They went to Grandma's house. See, house is a one-syllable word, and you don't divide one-syllable words. So this would be incorrect. H-O-U hyphen S-E. That's incorrect. Now, you don't want to divide one-syllable words, capitalized words, or words where one syllable has only one letter. Take a look. Is there time to read my email? This syllable only has one letter, so you wouldn't divide it there. My first job was at Southern Illinois University. Take a look. It should not be divided there because this is a proper noun, has a capital letter. Now, we use a hyphen with numbers 21 to 99. $42. Here's a hyphen. We also use a hyphen with X, self, all, mid, anti, and before the word elect. Take a look. Ex-wife. Here's the hyphen. Pre-med, here's the hyphen. Anti-establishment, here's the hyphen. All-star, here's the hyphen. Vice President-elect, here's the hyphen. And sometimes women keep their maiden name and add their married name. They hyphenate it. My girlfriend is Mary Murphy Claggett. This is her maiden name and this is her married name, and she kept them both, and what she did is she hyphenated it. Now, a hyphen divides a word at the end of the line. Remember to divide it between syllables. It's better not to divide it at all if you don't know where the syllables separate. Don't divide one-syllable words, capitalized words, and words where one syllable has only one letter. Remember to put a hyphen between the numbers 21 to 99. Use a hyphen with X, self, all, mid, anti, and before the word elect. And also, sometimes women keep their maiden name and they add their married name, so there's a hyphen. Now, there's something else you need to know about, and that's called a dash. You use dashes for further explanation, something that could be left out. It's used for a stronger separation. And if you don't have a dash on your keyboard, you can always use two hyphens. For instance, I like to go to the pool. If you didn't have a dash, you could use two hyphens. The 23rd Street pool. So it's a separation. A dash shows a separation in thought. Let's take a look at something else. Parentheses. This is what parentheses look like. They look just like that. And we use parentheses with information that's not of major importance to a sentence, but wants to be added. Ask yourself, can it be added without changing the meaning and construction of the sentence? Can you substitute? Some people actually use commas more than dashes and dashes more than parentheses. This quote that I have here concerns the President of the United States. Take a look how we use the parentheses. He, parentheses, the President, thinks education is important. So, parentheses are used with information that's not of major importance to a sentence, but wants to be added. Let's take a little quiz. Let's take a little quiz. Let's take a look at these and see if you know what these are. Here we have what? It's a colon. This is a colon. And what's this one? This is a semicolon. And these are quotations. And these are single quotes, huh? And what about these? Period, exclamation point, question mark. And this? Well, that's a comma. This is the apostrophe. What's this? Hyphen. And what are these? This is a dash. And when you don't have a dash, you use two hyphens. And what are these? Parentheses. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to the Learn Grammar Quickly book, and please do the exercises in Part 1, that's pages 44 to 45. And then Part 2, pages 48 to 49. And then you can begin the post-tests. There are two post-tests, Post-Test 1 and Post-Test 2, and they start on page 56. And remember to check your answers. Now, congratulations, and good luck to you in all your grammar studies.